Stocks rally to drive the Nifty 50 to a record high following range-bound early trade. Financials, FMCG and IT surge while mid-caps continue to be under pressure.
The Competition Commission of India is not for a merger of Reliance-controlled Viacom18 with Disney's Star India portfolio paves the way for creation of a world-class leader in sports and entertainment. Stocks of TV18 and Network 18 jump.
Indigo Airlines owner Interglobe Aviation sees a big block trade of 5.8% of its equity as co-founder Rakesh Gangwal offloads another slice of his stake to rake in over 10,000 crore rupees. His tally from such sale now totals near 27,000 crore rupees, and he still holds over 13% stake in the airline.
SEBI warns investors to be careful when investing in SME stocks. It points to malpractices by promoters in several such companies that are aimed at defrauding unsuspecting investors.
The government amends rules to allow Indian companies to list directly at GIFT IFSC with a minimum 10% public float. The move is expected to benefit the startups, sunrise sector companies, and those with global ambitions. Hello and welcome. You tuned into Business Lunch. I'm Nisha, and with me as always is Hormaz. And Hormaz, the market is looking good today. Nifty 50 is closer to the record levels. Yet another attempt probably at new record levels. Well, that's become a norm. Let's take stock of the market at lunch hour. So Nifty 50 sitting comfortably at 25,140 odd levels, very close to the all-time high levels. Sensex too is gaining about 350 points at lunchtime. Bank Nifty is gaining 0.25%. It's a slight underperformance to the key indices, but we can't really complain with 130 point odd gain. Mid-cap universe, that is seeing sell-off, profit booking, and that is where the weakness lies for the market. 0.7% down on the mid-cap universe. It has only fallen further in the trading session, and therefore it's also impacting the strength of the market, with advanced decline ratio now being in favor, heavily in favor of the declines. There you can see the big gap that has emerged, and it has only got pronounced as the trading session has improved. But the stock on our radar will also be Reliance Industries. It's comfortably above the 3,000 level, but far away from its all-time highs of 3,200 odd levels. And today is the Reliance AGM, and that's the big expectation that is really building up on that particular heavyweight. And other heavyweights like Bajaj Twins are contributing hugely to the market. Hormaz.
Yes, there is some bit of sell-off in the broader markets, but the Nifty, yes, another day, another record high for the index. 25,174 is the level that we made in today's sessions. We're slightly off that, but of course, all eyes on Reliance Industries. But there is some pain in the broader markets, and there are some specific stocks that are seeing some selling pressure when it comes to the mid-caps and the small-cap space. Tata Elxsi is one of them. It was down in yesterday's session. It's down today as well. Another 3% shed on Tata Elxsi. That is a stock that is seeing some bit of selling pressure today. The another one is Nykaa. That is also down for the second consecutive day today, another 3% down on that as well. But of course, the show begins with the big deal of the day. The Competition Commission of India has approved the merger between Reliance Industries and Disney India's media assets. The $8.5 billion deal has been cleared subject to some voluntary modifications. Vamakshi is joining in to tell us more. Vamakshi.
Well, absolutely. It's a significant development towards the merger. CCI has given its nod to the mega merger with Disney's India assets, and CCI's approval for a merger this size is quite crucial, and therefore this is a very big development that has come through. This transaction is expected to be completed in the last quarter of this calendar year, and either or in the first quarter of the next calendar year. Now, it is important to note that this nod is subject to compliance of voluntary modifications assets, and therefore we will have to wait by for more details to emerge to get a clearer picture on the roadmap ahead. Now, the combined entity will be India's #1 broadcast network. They would have nearly 100 plus TV channels and 2 streaming platforms, namely Disney Plus, Hotstar and Jio Cinema. They will also own broadcasting rights for all major sporting events. They will have overall a very dominant position with nearly 35% plus share in TV viewership, 40 to 45% plus share in advertising, and 85 to 90% share in the sports genre. Other than that, digital OTT market share is also expected at 34% for this entity. So overall, given this development, the CCI nod has come in. It is a very big development towards the merger, and resultantly Reliance Industries and TV18 both in focus, as both of these entities have some stakeholding in the eventual entity that will be formed.
All right, Vamakshi, thanks so much. It is indeed a big deal. And right before the AGM, the CCI approval, a very crucial approval, has really come by to create a media mehbot between Reliance as well as Disney. And we are now counting down to the 47th annual general meeting of Reliance Industries in a short while from now at 2 p.m. And the street is keenly watching out for the concrete plans for the Jio and retail IPOs as well, and updates on the new energy projects. And Jio's 5G monetization will be the other important update that the investors are really awaiting from the chairman of Reliance Industries, Mukesh Dhirubhai Ambani, due to speak in a short while from now.
Interesting. All eyes on Reliance Industries. Of course, and you mentioned that the stock is well above the mark of 3,000, but away from its all-time high, which is 3217. That is the record high for Reliance Industries, and we'll keep an eye out. There's lots of things awaited, right? You're awaiting a lot of commentary.
The 200 rupees below, and if any indication comes, because in 2019 in AGM, Mukesh Ambani had stated that in 5 years we plan to list these companies. 5 years are getting over now. So the expectation is really building up, and there is a headroom of 200 rupees and maybe a breakout into newer levels also, Hormaz.
Indeed, and that is what is the biggest clarity that the street is awaiting from, right? There's listing timelines for both Jio as well as retail. But block deals as well are continuing on the Lal Street, and one of them, a big one today, that happened in Interglobe Aviation, where promoter Rakesh Gangwal is likely to have sold about 6% of his equity. Sudarshan is joining in with more details on that. Sudarshan.
That's correct. So today, Rakesh Gangwal, who is one of the co-founders, likely to have sold 5.8% stake worth rupees 10,300 crore. Remember, yesterday when the term sheet was out, firstly, the block size was rupees 6,750 crore. Later on today morning, he has decided to increase the block size to rupees 10,300 crore. And the block deal likely to happen rupees 4,715 per share, which is 2.7% higher against the indicative price, which was 4,593 per share. And there will be a 150-day lock-in period post this tranche of stake sale, which is likely to end in January 2025. Since September 2022, when that was the first time Rakesh Gangwal had sold stake in Indigo, he has sold 23% stake, and now post today's stake sale, he still holds almost 13.6% stake worth rupees 25,000 crore. Now talking about the stock performance, since September 2022, the stock is up almost 150%, and since the last tranche of stake sale, that was March 2024, the stock is up 50%, and currently it's trading near record high.
All right, what a value creation by this stake sale in the airline company. Sky high, I must say. Thanks, Sudarshan, for getting us all those important details. With that, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch. But also up next, remember, SEBI Chairperson Madhvi Puri Butch at the Global FinTech Fest also talks about the approvals for FinTech IPOs and more excerpts on important comments coming in from SEBI Chairperson. That's on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch. Now, the government amends the rules to allow the Indian companies to list directly at GIFT IFSC with a minimum 10% public float. Sapna Das gets us all the details. Tell us, Sapna.
That's right, Nisha. The focal point here is the change, the amendments that have been made to the SCRR. The framework for the listing had already been, listing of direct listing of Indian equity shares on the notified global exchanges in the IFC. That was there earlier, but they have now revised the norms. They have lowered the thresholds. As you rightly pointed out, 10% is what the size should be post issue. Should be the size of the IPO, and basically what the government is trying to do with all this is that based on investor feedback, they wanted some changes in the in the original listing norms. That is what has been clarified, and the government is saying very clearly the intent here is basically all the sunrise sectors, companies in the sunrise sector, big tech, also e-commerce. These are the players primarily looking out for global capital. So this is going to really help them in case they're interested in picking up funds in dollars. So this is what it is as of now. The focal point here is this 10% threshold that the government has now given out, and that's how it's going to play out even for further listings, the continuous listings. No change in that. The existing SCRR rule remains, but this is a big takeaway for all those who are interested in raising global capital, as I just mentioned, particularly the sunrise sector companies, big tech, e-commerce, stuff like that. Nisha?
Interesting updates there, Sapna. Thanks a lot for sharing those updates with us. There's some interesting developments that have happened in the IPO space as well. One of the companies who's having their IPO open currently is Premier Energies. It's the final day of their subscription today, and last night they came out with an addendum to their RHP where they mentioned that the promoters of the company have issued 1.9 crore shares to certain investors and funds before the IPO had opened. Now, these shares were issued on the 23rd and the 24th of August, and the IPO had opened on the 26th. Now, the selling shareholders here include the promoters, of course, and the IPO is a complete OFS. So the promoters and the selling shareholders who have been classified as that in the RHP are the ones who have issued those shares to the funds. Now, if you look at that, if you pull up that graphic as well, you would come to know that the promoters, the three of the promoter groups, promoter members, and two of the selling shareholders, which is both funds combined, they have put together some 1.1 crore shares, and the selling shareholders, the promoters, have sold the rest. So it comes up to around 1.9 crore shares, and that comes up to around 30% of the total IPO size, which is around 6.9 crore shares, which is currently open for a subscription. Now, to whom that they have issued the shares? They have issued those shares to funds and investors alike. But these are some of the important funds that they have been issued these shares to. You can see there Kotak Mahindra Life Insurance, Axis, Quant, all of them have been issued close to around 22 lakh shares at that price of 450 rupees, which is the upper end of the price band. So they have issued those shares to these funds. Now, talking about the IPO itself, the IPO is a complete offer for sale, and so which means that the company is not going to get any proceeds from the IPO.
Right.
And this is priced at the sold at 450 rupees. Now, interestingly, they've mentioned that the average cost of acquisition over the last 12 months of those shares is 43 rupees. And they've sold those shares at 450. So within 12 months, there has been a 10x jump in the valuation of the company. Now, the question that is being asked is, the IPO so far, when I last checked, was subscribed close to around 11 times. Now, if the IPO is seeing that kind of oversubscription, could this not have been made part of the public pool itself? Yes. That has been the question that's what the investors are asking as well, right? And whether this is within regulatory practice, if this is being done. We reached out to the company, they said yes, it is within regulatory practice, but they did not offer a comment on why this was done or whether this could have been part of the public pool itself. And there have been, it's not the first time that this has happened. During the Tata Technologies IPO as well, they had Tata Motors had sold 9.9% stake to TPG and other investors as well. This was 1 month before the IPO. And Fedbank as well, they had sold shares to some funds before the IPO as well. So there are past instances of this, but of course the question is whether this should have been part of the public pool or not.
That's a very interesting debate, and of course in the parameters of the regulatory norms. So that's also throwing light on these trends that are emerging in the IPO market. With that, we'll cut across to the Global FinTech Fest, where Dinesh Khara is speaking and is in conversation with our colleague Ritu Singh.
So those are the people where there could be challenge. But yes, of course, if at all there is a adequate assessment in terms of the income flows and the certainty of the income flows and the EMIs, then perhaps it may not be as much of a challenge. So much of it will depend upon unsecured credit to which category of customer and how much. So that is something which is going to define and determine how this unsecured book is going to look like in the different banking.
Well, that's something to keep in mind. But, the other issue that's really dominating, the conversations among bankers is this scramble for deposits. And that's because, household savings typically, which would, stay in vanilla bank accounts, are moving out because there's more financialization. They're on the hunt for higher returns on their, savings. And also, of course, tax efficiency. Do you see a structural, problem emerging for the banking sector to tackle, with especially as we're seeing more and more banks look at the digital route, not so much as the physical footprint? Do you see this impacting credit growth as deposit continues to lag?
Well, this is something our Chief Economic Advisor, Dr. Saumakant Ghosh, has come out with a report, and which is actually based upon the RBI report, where he has analyzed that we have seen similar kind of a situation way back in 2003-04 also. And his assessment is that normally it takes anything up to 41 months for this divergence to get addressed. So I think our assessment was that by the June 25 or so, this should get addressed. But nevertheless, there are multiple options which are available to take care of the loan book growth, which I mentioned in the past for State Bank of India also. We had mobilized deposit at a point of time when nobody used to look at deposit during the COVID period. We have created an investment book, which is, even today also we have got investment book, which is almost about 3.7, 3.9 trillion. And we can easily unlock that investment and support the loan book growth. And of course, deposit is a franchise. Just to address that, in certain time buckets, we did tweak the interest rates. But yes, of course, any banker has to always strike a balance between the deposit cost and also the NIM. There's a trinity which needs to be met. So eventually, how to meet that trinity is nothing but a skill. So I think the skillful handling of the situation is something which will see the bankers sailing through the difficult times.
Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch, and markets holding strong at this particular point. And Reliance Industries also ahead of its AGM is maintaining its gain at this particular point. But of course, all eyes would be on Reliance Industries AGM. Now, moving forward with an important development, well, the market regulator SEBI has issued an advisory to the investors regarding the risks associated with the investing in SME stocks, and SEBI has identified troubling practices amongst some of the companies and their promoters. In fact, our colleague Sudarshan is right here with the details of this important advisory. Tell us, Sudarshan.
So just after market got closed yesterday, the market regulator SEBI had come out with an advisory which was related to investment in SME companies. So, but before I talk about the advisory, let's take a look at the performance of the BSE SME index. In 2024, the index is up almost 140%, and in last 1 year, it's up more than 200%. So what does SEBI say? It says SME platform was launched in 2012 to serve as an alternative source of raising funds for emerging businesses, and since 2012, more than rupees 14,000 crore was raised through this platform, and of which rupees 6,000 crore was raised just in 2024. So what does concern SEBI? SEBI says some SME companies or their promoters are resorting to certain means to project unrealistic picture of their businesses, and these companies make announcements that create a positive picture of business, and these announcements are typically followed up with various corporate announcements, and those corporate announcements are related to stock splits, bonus, preferential allotment or something else. And these actions created positive sentiment amongst investors, and because of these actions, these investors buy shares, and because of that, shares go to elevated levels, and it gives an opportunity to their promoters to offload their holdings at elevated prices. Now, after that, SEBI come out with an advice to investors. It says it tells investors to be careful and watchful, and also tells them don't rely on unverified social media posts and not to invest based on tips or rumors. And after these announcements, we have got to know that one of the SME companies has delayed its IPO, and name of that company is Archit Noor, but company says it has delayed due to fresh queries raised by stock exchanges.
Interesting updates there, Sudarshan. Thanks a lot for that. Now, interesting that the IPO that we were talking about, that resourceful automotive, that 400 times subscription, listed exactly at its IPO price. You'd think that would happen in a hefty premium. It's not to be the case. Moving on then, SEBI chairperson Madhavi Puri Buch, while addressing the gathering at the Global FinTech Fest, spoke on approvals for FinTech IPOs and how SEBI was trying to smoothen the process of IPO approvals. Listen in.
We have been focusing on saying that if the fintech industry has reached a certain level of maturity and now they want to IPO, the private equity investors want to exit, the markets are good, this is the time when we should not be wasting time in giving approvals. So as you're seeing, compared to when we started tracking in March of 2022, and we had a very large number of IPO papers pending more than 3 months, today we have just 8. And most of those are really in the realm of where there is either a judicial intervention or there is a regulatory approval pending from another fellow regulator, and which is why they are still pending at our end. We ensure that people are not wanting and waiting for approvals when there is so much opportunity in the market. So any of the fintechs coming to register in this form will also see that this speed of approval should be there by SEBI. This speed and this, monitoring of aging is something that we've been doing more through restructuring of the organization and through process optimization. So we are hoping that, in fact, a lot of that aging that you saw, we can make it crash even further, because we will now actively use AI within SEBI itself in order to deliver this.
All right, let's also get you updates from the Hurun India Rich List for 2024. And for the first time, the Hurun India Rich List has broken past 1,500 members, with India's billionaires count now at 334 billionaires, with an average of 1 new billionaire being minted every 5 days as per the latest report. Now, Mukesh Ambani of Reliance Industries has a net worth of 10.1 lakh crore rupees. Bollywood and the entertainment industry has also made its mark in the rich list, with Shah Rukh Khan entering the list with a net worth of about 7,300 crore rupees. Juhi Chawla and family, Hrithik Roshan, Karan Johar and Amitabh Bachchan entering the list for the first time. So, Hormaz, what are we doing? 1 billionaire getting created each day now.
It's certainly not either of us, for sure, at least for the time being. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business Lunch from Nisha, me and the team that put this show together. Thank you so much for watching. Midcap Radar comes up next.